we're in the process of building a pipeline, a gas pipeline from here to Algeria, targeting the European market. We are also building a pipeline from the West African gas pipeline to Morocco, also targeting Europe. So what the Russian and Ukraine crisis has created is additional market for our gas.
Often people find it hard to understand why European countries are so interested in Africa. It's true that European countries like France exploit Africa to this day. However, Europe wants to give that up when it comes to one thing: natural gas. Interestingly, European countries rely heavily on energy imports. Earlier, Russia provided natural gas and oil, but with the end of Nord Stream 1 and 2, it has become hard for Europe to survive. It's willing to give up its old exploitative habits. At the same time, African countries have plenty of natural gas, enough for tens of countries for centuries. That's when Europe gets ready to even beg Africa to do business the right way just to get natural gas. But what gas pipeline project can resolve Europe's energy problem? What benefits can it bring to Africa, making it the center of the world? Let's find out. So, why does Europe need Africa for energy? Well, the answer is simple. Africa is rich in natural gas, oil, and various other natural resources. However, natural gas stays the center of attention. Horatius Egwa, a spokesperson for the petroleum minister, has affirmed that Nigeria boasts the largest natural gas reserves in Africa. However, despite this distinction, it only makes up 14% of the European Union's imports of liquefied natural gas, LNG, delivered by ship. This means there is potential for the gas exports to be increased and more revenues to be earned. With Europe grappling with reduced natural gas flows from Moscow, leading to skyrocketing energy prices and recession concerns, the 27-nation EU is urgently seeking alternative sources. European leaders have engaged in discussions with countries such as Norway, Qatar, Azerbaijan, and notably those in North Africa. Algeria, with pipelines to Italy and Spain, plays a significant role. Italy recently finalized a $4 billion gas deal with Algeria, while Egypt reached an agreement with the EU and Israel to boost LNG sales. Angola has also inked a gas deal with Italy. African leaders, including Senegalese President Macky Sall, are eager for their countries to reap the benefits of such projects despite global pressure to transition away from fossil fuels. They also aim to ensure that not all resources are exported, recognizing that millions of Africans lack access to electricity. However, Europe is now more eager than ever to import Africa's natural gas in any way possible. It appears that European countries are fighting for African natural gas the same way they did to colonize Africa in the past. So, how does the Trans-Saharan gas pipeline become relevant and what it really is? The Trans-Saharan gas pipeline, the Nigal and Trans-African pipeline, is a planned natural gas conduit spanning from Nigeria to Niger and Niger to Algeria. It's seen as an opportunity to broaden the European Union's gas supply sources. It's interesting to know that Europe had eyes on this pipeline project 50 years ago, and the idea of the Trans-Saharan pipeline was first proposed in the 1970s. On January 14, 2002, the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation and Algerian National Oil and Gas Company Sonatrach inked a memorandum of understanding to kickstart preparations for the project. By June 2005, NNPC and Sonatrach had contracted Penspan Limited to conduct a feasibility study, which concluded in September 2006, confirming the pipeline's technical, economic, and operational feasibility. During a meeting on February 20, 2009, NNPC and Sonatrach agreed to proceed with drafting a memorandum of understanding involving 3 governments and a joint venture agreement. The intergovernmental agreement on the pipeline was officially signed by energy ministers from Nigeria, Niger, and Algeria on July 3, 2009, in Abuja. On July 28, 2022, the Algerian, Nigerian, and Nigerian ministers of energy signed a memorandum of understanding for the implementation of the Trans-Saharan gas pipeline project because earlier it was just a proposed plan. This agreement, co-signed by Algerian Minister of Energy and Mines Mohamed Arkab, Nigerian Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Timipri Silva, and Nigerian Minister of Energy and Renewable Energy, Mahamane Sani Mahamadou, concluded the third tripartite ministerial meeting held in Algiers. But what are the details of the pipeline's route? The pipeline is slated to originate in the Wari region in Nigeria, proceeding northward through Niger until reaching Hassi R'Mel in Algeria. In Hassi R'Mel, it will link up with existing pipelines such as the Trans-Mediterranean, Maghreb-Europe, Medgaz, and Galsi pipelines. These pipelines supply Europe from the gas transmission hubs at El Kala and Beni Suef on Algeria's Mediterranean coast. The total length of the pipeline is projected to be 4,128 kilometers, with 1,037 kilometers in Nigeria, 841 kilometers in Niger, and 2,310 kilometers in Algeria. As for the capacity, the pipeline is anticipated to have an annual capacity of up to 30 billion cubic meters of natural gas and will vary in diameter from 48 to 56 inches. Initially slated for operation by 2015, the pipeline was expected to require an initial investment of approximately $10 billion, with an additional $3 billion allocated for gas gathering centers. But who will own how much of the pipeline? A group consisting of the NNPC, Sonatrach, and the Republic of Niger will supervise the construction and operation of the pipeline. Initially, NNPC and Sonatrach will jointly possess a 90% interest, while Niger will maintain the remaining 10%. Discussions have occurred between Russian energy giant Gazprom and Nigeria regarding potential involvement in the project. Other interested parties include Indian company Gale, France's Total SA, Italy's Eni, and Royal Dutch Shell. Algerian Energy Minister Chakib Khalil emphasized that partners must provide tangible contributions beyond financial support. Both Algerian and Nigerian energy ministers have indicated receptiveness to external collaborations, but stressed the importance of significant benefits. But how beneficial will the pipeline be for the member African countries? First, one thing should be made clear: the pipeline is under construction and can take years to be completed. Perhaps this can work in Africa's favor, giving it time to think about the conditions of the pipelines and ensuring that African countries get more benefits. As dynamics in Africa are changing, it can allow countries to think more boldly about their national interests rather than compromising on them solely for Europe's benefit. Once operational, the $13 billion pipeline will have the capacity to transport up to 30 billion cubic meters of gas annually from Nigeria, in West Africa, traveling north through Niger, and onwards to Algeria. Subsequently, TSGP gas is planned to be transported through the undersea Trans-Mediterranean pipeline to Europe or loaded onto liquefied natural gas carriers for export. All this would bring billions of dollars in revenues for the three African countries. Just to have an idea, if the Trans-Saharan gas pipeline allows Europe to replace Russian gas, Africa can earn $147 billion per year on average. That's because it's the amount the EU paid Russia in 2021 for its energy imports from Russia. You should know that we are only counting on a single pipeline that has three African countries as sellers. How would that look when other African countries also join the pipeline and pool in their natural gas? It goes without saying that Europe needed more energy than what Russia provided, which means that if Africa offered more natural gas, European markets would absorb it because of high demand. However, energy experts remain skeptical about African gas flowing into Europe in the near future, with some suggesting that the pipeline won't be constructed within the next decade. Isaac Bodi, a Nigerian public finance specialist from Abuja, believes that the lack of political determination could pose the greatest challenge to the project. However, in the past, we have seen the pipeline getting renewed energy every time governments changed in the member countries. In 2022, the Trans-Saharan gas pipeline received renewed momentum as representatives from Algeria, Niger, and Nigeria assembled in Niamey, Niger. Following this, in July, the energy ministers of these three nations signed a memorandum of understanding and agreed to establish a task force for the project aimed at updating an existing feasibility study. As Europe works to reduce its dependence on Russian natural gas, Algeria, Niger, and Nigeria have revived a multi-billion-dollar gas project that has been dormant for decades. Nigeria's petroleum minister, Timipri Silva, revealed that funding for the project will come from Europe, with discussions already underway with European firms and nations. Silva noted that a joint committee established by the three African nations is currently conducting a feasibility study for constructing a 4,128-kilometer-long gas pipeline stretching from southern Nigeria through Niger to Algeria. The resurrection of the project has received praise from the African Energy Chamber, an organization advocating cooperation in the continent's energy sector. Emmanuel Afiyami, an energy expert based in Abuja, emphasized the project's significance for Africa's energy landscape and its potential economic benefits for the participating countries. African energy experts like Afiyami believe that given the increasing demand for natural gas, the TSGP project could transform Africa's energy outlook if effectively implemented. Africa can also leverage from Europe even during pipeline construction, because Europe needs it desperately. In April last year, EU representatives engaged in discussions with Nigerian officials in Abuja regarding the diversification of Europe's energy sources. Furthermore, Nigerian authorities directed the state-run oil company, Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, to execute a deal for a gas pipeline to Europe through Morocco. Plans are also underway to increase gas transportation from southern to northern Nigeria and construct a major gas turbine in Abuja. Here's a reminder to please like and share the video, and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on Black culture, history, civilization, and identity. Let's continue now. The concept of the Trans-Saharan gas project pipeline emerged with the objective of improving the transportation of natural gas in Africa. Given Africa's significant role in the production of liquefied natural gas, crude oil, and other petroleum products, various African governments are implementing measures to ensure the seamless distribution of these resources within the continent, thereby fostering regional economic growth. Notably, there is growing interest from international companies such as BP, Eni from Italy, Total from France, and Baker Hughes, as well as regional oil and gas firms, in investing in Africa's oil and gas ventures. In addition to the Niger pipeline, another noteworthy project is the African Renaissance Project pipeline, an onshore gas pipeline located in Mozambique, spanning 2,600 kilometers, making it the second largest gas pipeline in the region. Key stakeholders in this project include the China National Petroleum Corporation, Empresa Nacional de Hidrocarbonetos EP, and Profin Consulting Sociedade Anónima. This pipeline, with a total capex of $6 billion, is also scheduled to commence operations in 2021. Temíper Silva, the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, emphasized that the $13 billion Trans-Saharan gas pipelines project would provide a significant opportunity for Nigeria, Niger, and Algeria to access the European markets. The project takes African gas directly to the European market. Currently, a significant amount of gas in Nigeria remains stranded or re-injected due to insufficient infrastructure to transport the gas to the market. However, this project will transport the gas all the way from its production site to the European market, and the timing couldn't be better, given the robust gas prices globally. Silva added that, besides supplying gas to European markets, the project would enhance economic growth on the African continent. It will create a corridor for development across Africa, because neighboring countries can also join the pipeline. Therefore, this project holds great potential for boosting the economies of African countries, both in West Africa and North Africa. The Minister of Petroleum from Niger Republic affirmed that the countries were ready to pool their resources to ensure the success of the project. He stressed the urgency of getting the project underway, emphasizing that it would promote regional cooperation and generate revenue for the participating countries. The Minister of Energy and Mines from Algeria stated that reactivating the project would stimulate economic development in the countries and assist them in achieving carbon neutrality in line with the global energy transition. What's more, the Trans-Saharan gas pipeline represents a significant opportunity for Europe to diversify its gas sources, reducing reliance on the Nord Stream 1 and 2 pipelines. Europe's quest for alternatives to Russian gas, spurred by concerns regarding energy security and geopolitical tensions, discovers a solution in the geographically distinct TSGP. Originating from Nigeria, Niger, and Algeria, This pipeline provides a unique source of natural gas, decreasing Europe's dependence on Russian gas and bolstering overall energy security by mitigating risks associated with a single supplier. Therefore, the Trans-Saharan gas pipeline becomes a win-win. However, this will be the first project where Africa will have the upper hand. The operationalization of the TSGP grants considerable leverage to African countries participating in the project. Serving as gas suppliers to Europe, these nations can strategically utilize the pipeline as a bargaining tool in determining gas prices and negotiating trade agreements. This newfound leverage could enable African countries to assert themselves in the global energy market, resulting in enhanced economic outcomes through favorable trade terms. What's more, the pipeline has the potential for further expansion, attracting additional African nations to become gas suppliers to Europe. This not only increases revenues for the participating countries, but also strengthens their collective bargaining power. The growing involvement of African nations collectively amplifies their influence over European gas markets, equipping them with greater capabilities to determine prices and negotiate trade agreements. Beyond economic ramifications, the pipeline signifies a notable shift in power dynamics between Europe and Africa. Historically, Europe has significantly influenced Africa in economic and trade relations. However, the TSGP alters this dynamic by providing African countries with a valuable asset on which Europe depends. This reversal empowers African nations to assert their interests and negotiate more equitably, departing from the traditional narrative of European dominance over Africa. But why are European leaders making visits to Africa? Well, they want Africa's gas, and they are ready to come as many times as Africa wants to negotiate. You see, European leaders are coming, not African leaders are being summoned. It's because Africa has got all the bargaining power here. For many decades, energy has been Europe's top agenda while engaging with Africa. However, in recent times, this has become the only focus. European leaders are often seen gathering in African capitals with a strong interest in finding alternatives to Russian natural gas. This increased involvement has sparked optimism among African counterparts that the conflict in Ukraine could change the dynamics in the continent's relationship with Europe, potentially bringing in a fresh wave of gas investments despite the push towards transitioning to renewable energy sources. In September, Poland's president visited Senegal to pursue gas deals, while in May, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz also sought agreements in this area. Scholz recently emphasized the importance of collaborating with countries where there is potential for developing new gas fields to address Europe's energy crisis while maintaining commitments to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Mamadou Fall Kane, energy advisor to the president of Senegal, commented, "With the war, there has been a significant shift. The narrative has changed." These overtures from European leaders have spurred the acceleration of energy projects, with expectations of further developments. African capitals are optimistic that Europe's demand will lead to the financing of gas facilities, not only for export but also for domestic use. On top of the projects is the Trans-Saharan gas pipeline. Recently, officials from the Democratic Republic of Congo have launched an international marketing campaign to attract interest from US and European companies to newly available oil and gas blocks up for auction. African leaders have expressed frustration that it took a conflict in Ukraine to give them leverage in energy deals, and have highlighted what they see as a double standard. They argue that less developed nations should have the freedom to increase gas consumption despite the climate crisis, citing the need for improved living standards and greater access to reliable electricity. However, they criticize European and international lenders for making this option excessively costly. But no matter what, Europe has to fund the pipeline and ensure all hurdles are removed. It's because this pipeline is a necessity for Europe, where countries are in desperate need of energy all around the year. It's this that allows Africa to enjoy the benefits of the pipeline forever. It will be in the hands of African countries to decide gas prices and negotiate all terms. What's more, the TSGP has the potential to boost economic growth along its route, creating jobs, generating income for local communities, and stimulating economic activity. By improving energy security for suppliers and consumers, the pipeline allows North African countries to diversify their energy mix and reduce dependence on volatile global markets. Similarly, Nigeria stands to benefit from a reliable export route for its abundant natural gas reserves, reducing vulnerability to fluctuations in oil prices. The TSGP can even promote greater regional integration and cooperation among African nations. Collaboration on such a large-scale infrastructure project would necessitate coordination between countries, potentially leading to stronger diplomatic ties and partnerships in Africa. This will allow African countries to see how they can mutually progress if they join hands. The construction of the pipeline would drive the development of associated infrastructure such as roads, railways, and telecommunications networks, not only supporting pipeline operation, but also contributing to regional connectivity and development. By facilitating the transport of natural gas, the TSGP could assist African countries in transitioning towards cleaner energy sources, mitigating environmental impacts, and contributing to global efforts to combat climate change. What's more, the export of natural gas through this pipeline promises Africa a significant revenue generation, which could be reinvested in social and economic development initiatives, improving living standards and quality of life for citizens. Even access to natural gas along the pipeline route could stimulate industrial development, benefit industries such as petrochemicals, manufacturing, and power generation, and create new businesses, employment opportunities, and economic diversification. Moreover, the construction and operation of the TSGP are likely to attract foreign investment from energy companies, financial institutions, and infrastructure developers, stimulating broader economic activity and trade relationships between Africa and its international partners. The biggest of the benefits would be a steady income for African countries, considering the unstable government shifts. No matter who comes into power in the participating countries, they will earn a consistent revenue that will continue forever. Even if there are demands for clean energy, everyone knows that fossil fuels will remain the main energy source. Because industries will never stop in Europe, and homes will demand natural gas to be warm, Africa will see natural gas demand increase yearly. All this would make Africa a player Europe would depend upon. What do you think? Is the Trans-Saharan gas pipeline more beneficial to Europe than Africa? How can African countries ensure they have the upper hand and leverage in the gas pipeline project? In the comment section right below, let us know your thoughts on what African countries rich in energy can learn from Russia's policies on energy exports. Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If yes, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We have decided to bring videos on something nobody talks about: the Black culture, civilization, history, and evidence about how glorious Blacks have been. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.